what's like a fun fact that people wouldn't know about you based on your social media output?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I'm not college educated. I think that one strikes people as strange sometimes. Yeah, I just went straight from high school into like blue collar for like 2 years. I did cabinetry,
Cool.
and then started coaching when I like had my first knee surgery and COVID happened. But yeah, I was on something else, and they were like, "Oh, like, well, when you were in school," and I was like, "Oh yeah, like high school." Like they're like, "No, no, no, like you went to university, right?" And I was like, "Oh, nah," like straight into work. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that and like maybe music, but I think my music taste is pretty apparent through my politics. If you're also into punk and hardcore, like I think that's not surprising for people that are also in the genre.
Any albums or songs that have your interest at the moment?
Oh, I've been listening to a ton of Locked Shut,
Mm,
like Midwest hardcore. Toothache by them has been really scratching the itch.
I'll write that down.
Um, yeah, them, and then what was the other project? Weapon X, which is like a straight edge, like knocked loose variant. Um,
Never hurts.
yeah, they put out some really sick straight edge music. Like I'm not straight edge, but like I really get it and like I appreciate it. And so like all the straight edge bands I get down with. Also, the straight edge crowds are like the most violent shows that I've ever been to. Like those guys are going through it. Oh, hey mom, he's an
Eagle
Eagle
Scout,
Scout too. Yeah,
a punk Eagle Scout. I love it.
yeah,
Amazing. Um, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was first getting into straight edge, I technically was straight edge, but I was a high school kid, so it's kind of like super easy to just say that you're being straight
yeah,
edge. But yeah, I mean, the it's like all the energy that would go directed toward using substances gets put into the pit. It's incredible.
yeah. It's I don't know. They're walking the walk.
That's right. That's right. Okay, cool. Well, lots to pull from there. But I'm gonna get us started on the serious stuff. Um, Very lucky to be joined by Colin Davis today. Colin, thank you for being on Urgent Futures.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Great to have you. As I mentioned to you, and as I've said on the internet, I like about 56,000 other people on Instagram. I was introduced to your work through some really pointed social media content around fitness and, broadly speaking, leftist politics. That's not all you talk about, but that was just such a breath of fresh air from what I observe in the media ecosystem otherwise. So I want to basically get your background on those two threads. Like, what's your fitness journey background, and what's your kind of political imagination and maturation background?
Yeah, fitness wise, I started lifting when I was 12. I had wrestling and football in middle school that I was like getting pretty into, and I like saw the high schoolers and I was like, oh my God, I got to get bigger. And so I just like went on bodybuilding.com and like was looking up random workouts for a couple of years. And then I had a wrestling coach that was a former professional powerlifter. And he kind of guided me into the big three squat, bench, dead, powerlifting style workouts, which I just loved. I loved watching the number go up throughout high school. And then, yeah, like got out of high school, got done with wrestling, and still needed a competitive outlet. And so I found powerlifting through that. And I did like 3 or 4 powerlifting competitions. Um, Deadlifted 650. I squatted 500. I benched like 320. Those are gym numbers. That's not my, if you look me up on open powerlifting, it's not that good. But yeah, I did a couple powerlifting meets, and then I did a strongman competition where I get to say that I won North Carolina's strongest man, but I won the lightweight novice North Carolina strongest man. In that same competition, a guy deadlifted 1,000 pounds. So like not North Carolina's strongest man in entirety, but for that one competition, that one division, I won it. And then Year after that, I did a bodybuilding show, just because me and my roommate were really into it, and we were like, all right, like what other time of our lives are we going to have enough free time to do this thing? Let's try it out and see if we like it. And yeah, I think that's the competitive side of fitness. Other than that, like fitness has just been like kind of a rock for me. It's been a really good outlet for a lot of emotions that I didn't know how to handle as a young man, I'll get into later of how that's being kind of tricked, but it was like an acceptable form of expression for me as a young man. I didn't feel like I could necessarily be a creative or like be soft. And so I was like, well, I'll just get really angry and lift weights. And that carried me through like high school into like my early 20s before I started to snap out of it and be like, oh man, I should like go to therapy, I think. Um, yeah, it's been a community space. Now it's my livelihood. I started coaching full time like in 2020, and then worked at like a youth baseball place for a while as like the strength coach, and then worked at a Gold's Gym for a while, and then left and now coach at a independent gym and like online. And I love it. It's my bread and butter. Like I love lifting weights. I love talking strength training. And then I ended up talking politics because I didn't think like, okay, like I can teach you how to bench press better, but like we're on the brink of collapse. Like there's more important topics we can learn how to bench another time. So I think politically, it just kind of, I got tired of not saying anything. I think a lot of what I got taught from other coaches and general like sales practice was like, hey, be non-political. You don't want to put anyone off. You don't want to offend anyone. Like just keep it to yourself, be professional. And I've found not doing that has opened up way more doors for other people to enter fitness that initially felt uncomfortable because they think that every trainer is a right wing bro, which a lot of them are, and a ton of them are not. But when you're told on both sides to not say anything, it's hard to differentiate because we all look the same. Um, and I think my like political journey, I point to the start of it as like eighth grade, again, kind of the same time. My middle school was trying to form a GSA, which is like the Gay Straight Alliance. I think it's changed now, but it's like the club for queer kids to like meet and hang out and learn how to navigate that. And seeing the pushback from parents about like my friends when I was like 13 and like going to meetings and like hearing some really vile stuff, I think flipped a switch for like, oh my God, like what is wrong with these people? Like these are just like kids trying to figure out how to live life, and you're telling them that they're going to hell and like they're going to die and all this crazy stuff. And then we founded the club, started it again in the high school, and I was like a very stereotypical jock, like captain of the wrestling team, like did all of the sports stuff. I was in wood shop, and so there's this kind of protector role that I found myself in, of like, okay, like I can fight. If you're gonna pick on my friends that can't fight, like you're gonna have to fight me. Um, and that was, yeah, I think a really formative couple of years of like being in the South and looking the way I look and acting the way I acted, being able to confront other guys and be like, hey, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then most of the time being able to have a conversation about it and then be like, oh, wow, like I never thought about it like that. Or, oh, wow, like I didn't see them like that. And changing minds like that. A lot of like a role that I had was kind of meeting with parents to figure out what they're going to do when their kid comes out and like how to navigate that, and seeing older assuming conservative dads like be able to write off the other kids in the club because they have dyed hair and they're small or don't play sports, and then me coming out and having like talking to them like they have to look at me and listen to me because I am the stereotypical American boy, you know. And for me to be able to communicate those ideas to them and let them ask dumb questions and let them be a little bit offensive and not jump down their throat, and also explain in plain language like what is going to happen made it super easy for them to be accepting. And I hope that I got to like make that easier for both the parents and the kids. And then I think that carried into adulthood. Like my really radicalizing moment was being in DC in 2020, and like doing med work at the riot or at the protests and seeing just the amount of violence from the state, against people. Like I was wearing like a big Red Cross like plaque and like had a helmet on with like the big cross on it, and, like getting targeted by police for that, and seeing some crazy shit happen, and then coming home and having everything be normal was like a, oh shit, like things can go sideways really fast and we are unprepared. And I think that's when I started to take community organizing and direct action a lot more seriously as like a who I am and like how I want to interact with the world. Yeah.
Amazing.
My rambling answer. Yeah.
No, it's an amazing answer. There's like 20 threads in there I want to pull, so we'll see if I could do it in any kind of sensible order. So I want to pick up on this thing you're talking about, with particularly talking about friends, dads, who are at first not able to hear you. Obviously, who you are in that conversation, as you're saying, makes a big difference. Because you have some demographic factors and some lifestyle factors that sort of buy you a little bit more grace. But were there like conversational tactics or strategies that you were using that you saw find purchase, like things that would cause the light bulb to go off, or for some of the kind of bravado to soften, or for, there being a moment of understanding or empathy or acceptance?
Yeah, I think patience. Like, there's a good meme that I reference. It's hard to, but like it's like discussing gender with trans people, and it's like the apostles, and then it's discussing gender with cis people, and it's like a kid playing with blocks. And there's a lot of language and culture in queer culture that is just like untouchable to a lot of straight cis people, because they're like, I have no idea what these words mean, because they're 8 years down the pipeline of figuring out like how to describe what they're going through, versus someone that's never had to think of it, like doesn't know how to use that language. And so letting them ask stupid questions and use offensive language in those questions, and not criticizing them for it immediately, letting them ask the question, getting their thought off, and then like kind of gentle parenting them towards the right language and the right point of view, I think helped a ton, of just like letting them be stupid in a way, which is not like I don't mean that in a mean, derogatory way, but like they don't know. And so you can't expect someone to just immediately pick up everything in like a week of like being like, hey dad, I'm coming out, I'm trans. And he's like, what does that mean? What do you mean? Like, I don't know what any of these words mean. And a lot of their friends are really defensive. They're like, they call their kid a tranny on accident, and all of their friends are like, oh my God, like your dad's a bigot. And the dad's just like, I'm just trying to use the language that I know. And so letting them get that off, and then after they get it off, being like, hey, so what you're thinking about is correct. However, you don't say that anymore. You use transgender, or you use trans person, like, and letting them know, hey, you don't have to be perfect immediately. Like when someone transitions in your life, it's a hard thing to figure out at first, because it's like, that's been your son for 15 years. You're not going to in 1 week immediately call them your daughter every single time, but you have to try. That's all they're looking for, is you to try. And I think that grace and a little bit of patience made it a lot easier for them to be like, okay, I can do this thing, instead of the expectation that they have to be perfect right off the bat.
I'm thinking now about, like, obviously I've only seen, some of your videos, but I'm thinking about, there's kind of a few different kind of angles I see you approach these topics from. And I'm hearing one of those in this, where like, specifically I'm thinking about that video you did after the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yeah.
Which to me has more of that, kind of like softness and patience and more like educational tone to it. And then there's other times where you like come on strong. And it's almost like, it's not like fight me, bro, but it's a little bit like, I'll fight you if you want to fight about this particular topic. So first, I'd love to hear how that experience talking to friends' parents kind of informs that one side of the content you make that is kind of more patient and accommodating. And also, how do you think about when to be firmer? Like, when do you think about when it's time for maybe a little more tough love rather than gentle love?
Yeah, I think it's tough. Like we were saying before we went live, like I'm not a media person. Like I do not have a strong central message. I don't have like themes that I'm going for. It's just kind of like me posting. And with the post Kirk assassination, I waited like 2 or 3 days because my initial thoughts were not gentle. Um, my initial thoughts were very uh, radical, and I needed just a little bit of time to be like, all right, like how do I reach the people that I know are going to be angry about it on the right? And how do I kind of softly introduce these ideas of like, hey, like we're all getting played. It's not just you. It's not just me. We're both of us are at the bottom of this thing. Um, and it's a tough. I struggle with it a lot of like, am I alienating people? Am I like, where's the line of acceptance and education versus like being very strongly like, hey, this is my position. If you don't agree with me, get fucked. Um, and I think, yeah, through talking to parents, like that was a lot of how I figured out, like, oh, I can be soft and educating and like change minds. And then through being in like the punk scene and bouncing and doing security work was kind of like, okay, like there is a line of you can't do that. Like you can't say that. You can't have that opinion. If you're going to threaten me with violence, I'm ready to meet that. And it's, yeah, it's something I struggle with constantly of like, what's better, what's more effective, what's more important. Um, and I'm still, yeah, learning as I go of like how to balance those two sides. Um, yeah.
Well, you're doing great work. And so however it evolves, I have faith in your moral center. But let's this seems like a nice segue point to kind of get to the heart of the matter. I'm going to start really broad and it'll sound elementary to you who kind of lives in this world, but I think like not everybody has visibility into this. So from your perspective, how has the right-wing media ecosystem appealed to young men and boys who are also interested in gym culture? Like basically, why is gym culture? Why is it now a surprise that there's somebody making leftist videos in a gym?
Yeah. I think they just kind of, I don't think the right necessarily did it on purpose. I think they just kind of took in the fold of people that felt othered, which is, this is like a tricky line for me because like I understand why the left, I speak broadly, the left, others people that are in traditionally masculine sports and hobbies because overwhelmingly they are more bigoted, they are more right leaning inherently. But when you seed that, when you just go, okay, that's not us, then you're just giving up everyone that's kind of on the fence to the other side. And so for a long time and still is, bro stuff is like an easy punch down from the left of like, oh, you lift weights like meathead, dummy. Oh, you like jujitsu, you're a Joe Rogan fan, dummy. And after years and years of that, you can kind of just be like, all right, like, fuck it, I am. Like, I'm a dumb meathead fascist who's gonna do that. Like, if that's what you think I am, sure. Um, and the right very quickly realized, like, oh, okay, like, we can get that. Like, we can get essentially 1/3 of the voting block to just come to our side if we lift weights and like talk about making money. And I think it was the money on the right wing media ecosystem online has been poured into, as a weird way to phrase that. They've been pouring money into this online ecosystem for years. Like it's been built and it's been bought and paid for for so long that the left is just late to the party for trying to organize anything to like let creators do their thing. And when you are on the right, most of your values are monetary, right? So you could just be making flexing content and then somebody hits you up and they're like, "Hey, like wear our shirt for $200." And you're like, "Fuck it. Okay." And now all of a sudden you're wearing Trump merch and you're like, "Oh, okay." Like, and it just kind of ravels down to like, now you're wearing the hat in all of your videos and you're like a diehard Trump guy because at some point 2 years ago, someone offered you a couple $100 to make a video. And having a loose moral center around money, I think, leads you down the right. And most fitness creators get into it just because they want fame or power or money by being a jacked guy. And so when that's your first goal and intention, it makes it really easy to slide over to like fascism.
Mm.
And it's tough to try to convince a lot of leftists like, hey, lifting weights is cool. Like it's not just MAGA guys in there. Like, I don't know if you're friends with any gay guys, but like most of them are jacked. Like there's a large, like that is like gay church. Like there's a large population of people with left leaning ideals that also really like lifting weights and being strong. And they also, in my view, just kind of didn't interact on the internet because they're like, I have fulfilling friendships and relationships in the real world. Why do I need to post an ab selfie every single day? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like all of that makes total sense to me. And like so much of what right-wing funding mechanisms have gotten right is like identify these places where there's like shakeup or blurriness and start just, flooding the zone with cash. But there's also something that I observe around, there's a lot of talk about the male loneliness epidemic. And there's a lot of talk about like leaving our boys behind. There's a lot of talk about, men are decreasingly going to college. A larger and larger share of college populations are women. So there's these other threads that I, at least from outside, sense that the right is figuring out how to prey on as well. Is that your sense of things?
Yeah, I think definitely there's a sense of like, oh, you're not valuable as a man anymore. And I mean, those ideas are patriarchal, like base level ideas of what a man is, right? They're saying that the left doesn't value you if you're strong or a protector or rich anymore, that they want this like genderless communist world, which like, right. Um, there's the idea that if you are going to be a man today, if you want to be like a man, then you have to be right wing to have all of these ideas. I think because of that kind of general comedy punching down of bro stuff, they were like, all right, like we can just sweep that the other direction really harshly. And it starts with like your role as a man. And the right co-opted that really well with fitness of like, you have to be strong, you have to be big, you have to be ready to fight if you want to be valuable. And then that doesn't get like supported in the real world because that's like a ancient view of what you're supposed to be doing. And so you go out into the real world and you're like, all right, well, I did it. I benched 315. Why don't I have a wife yet? And then some guy online is like, it's because of the woke left. It's because these women are all communists. Instead of, oh, it's because you are like your target for success is off. And they were really easily able to, instead of pointing at the guy that told you to bench 315 to get a wife and being like, hey, you're an asshole for telling me that, you were wrong. They were able to kind of like hive mind these young boys and be like, it's everyone else's fault. The rest of the world is wrong.
Mm. One note for folks who are on the live, if you have questions or comments as we're going along, feel free to put those in the chat and I will work to weave them in where applicable. So related to this, maybe flipping it, I'd love to hear your take on why strength training, weightlifting, etc., is not and should not inherently be a right-wing fascination, and what's the potential you see to reincorporate gym culture into, again, broadly speaking, hand wavy, the left?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, just like your health. Like, if you are wanting to live a long, fulfilling, active life, like strength training should be a block of that. It is widely reported for like bone health, joint health, like brain health, like lifting weights simulates your nervous system at a higher rate than any other form of exercise. And for cognitive health, that matters. And so this idea of like weightlifting being for dumb guys, like boggles me because it's like it helps you think. Like there's so much data on it, and I think viewing it as like just a modality for health and like a thing to support the rest of your life instead of this obsessive one goal. I think a lot of fitness content now is geared towards like, oh, like you're going to be a bodybuilder, or oh, you're going to be a power lifter. You're going to like be this only thing you do. Like your only hobby is lifting weights. And instead of it being like for 3 hours a week, you're going to go to the gym and then live the rest of your life as you already do. It makes it unattainable for quote unquote normal people to enter that world because they think they're going to walk in and just turn into Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman's a very famous bodybuilder for people that don't know. They're just going to turn into like some massive freak that is putting protein powder in every meal and is like eating hard boiled eggs all day long and only lifts weights. When the reality of strength training is a lot less intensive and a lot more welcoming than I think it's marketed as. And then I think incorporating it into the left is, again, I think viewing it as health, viewing it as just like a thing you should be doing. It's like one of my favorite analogies. It's like brushing your teeth. It's just like a form of hygiene for your body to like keep you moving and keep you doing the stuff that you like doing. Like I really like hiking. I really like riding my bike. I really like being able to play with like kids. Like all of that requires me to be physically active, and strength training supports that easier than running or Pilates or all of these other modalities that are more commonly leftist. And it's super easy to get it confused because there's so much information about strength training and what it looks like. And I think that's like with the coaching side of what I'm doing, trying to like be like, hey, like it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't have to be your entire life. It can just be a thing you do. And not letting, yeah, I think cutting out some of the like punching down on bros, which is hard. Like I get it. We're an easy group to punch down on, and like a lot of it's kind of deserved, but it makes it so that you just other this entire group that could be an ally.
Mm. Well, I mean, I see examples of this, of course, in places where you would expect, but like, you go to a Gold's Gym in LA and it's probably much less, far right indexed than somewhere else. So like there are places all around the country that already are showing how this culture can work. And of course, yeah, like it's one thing to be a bodybuilder or a power lifter, and it's another thing to have, as you said, a toothbrushing, brushing your teeth habit where you're just keeping your body agile, and by doing so, keeping your brain agile. There's a dimension to this too for me around a subject that I know, and you sort of referenced it elliptically earlier, kind of like this idea of being a protector. That there's a dotted line back up from that around like kind of an identity crisis around masculinity, and obviously, we see how this plays out on the right. But you've also sort of hinted at this way that the question of masculinity is also problematized on the left too. And so maybe as a starting point, and then we can kind of go in deeper, like what feels like healthy masculinity to you?
I don't know. Like it's a question I get asked a lot. And I'm trying to find a nice, concise answer for it, but it feels too broad right now. I think my ideal world would be moving away from gender essentialism entirely. Is just like getting rid of these labels of masculine and feminine and a binary gender system. But that's a little too far away to try to tell like a 15-year-old boy of like, hey, like you don't need to be masculine, you don't need to be feminine, you just need to be yourself. Um, And I think we're seeing it on both sides in a way of the right really pushing for this overt, like traditional masculine of like chop wood, carry the boats, fight the invaders, and then the left of like only men that are wearing tutus and have painted nails are acceptable men. Everyone else is a threat. And they're both gender essentialism, and they're both this binary system of man, woman, and moving away from that entirely, I think, is a better option. And that's really difficult. I know that's a really big ask, and I struggle with it a lot, and it takes a lot of work to figure out like what it means to you. But like, I don't know, as a person that does like, I check all of the masculine boxes. Like I do woodworking, I lift weights, I fight, I do like I'm tall, like I've got the tattoos, I do all of this stuff to play this man role, but I don't walk around being like, "Oh, I'm the big tough man all the time," because that's exhausting. And in the same vein, I'm not walking around like, "Oh, like being a man is bad and evil and I should try to not be this thing that I am." And I'm just trying to be myself. I'm just like I reference what's the movie? Surfs Up. Chicken Joe. It's like, I'm just me, man. I'm just Cody. I think that's our best bet is trying to remove those labels entirely. And it's really hard to talk about in a way that is accessible to people that have not started unraveling this idea of gender essentialism at all.
Totally, totally. I love that vision. This will surprise no one, but of course, like I'm very much of the Judith Butler school that gender is a performance,
Yeah.
and that's something. Once we recognize it, it's kind of a portal into being your truest self. But there's a dimension of this too that is sex based, where like a 12-year-old, boy is going to have be at the onset of having very particular hormones that cause them to act in very particular ways. And what I'm trying to think through and sort of seeking your sort of insights and wisdom on is like, how do we appropriately acknowledge those boys as they're trying to come into themselves without fixed ideas about the world, or some fixed and some unfixed ideas about the world, and have them productively participate in gym culture and in self-empowerment without falling into some of the kind of like trad masculine traps that tend to happen. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it needs to be paired, like the gym training needs to be paired with also rigorous, like psychological training in a way of explaining to these young boys how to process their emotions, like how to be sad, how to be angry, like how to express desire. And that comes with comprehensive sex ed, which is a massive talking point on the right of like, boo, angry, we hate this, don't teach kids about that. But it's like, okay, would you rather them just be 13 and have no guidance from adults on what's normal or acceptable or good, and then go into the world and figure it out? That seems way worse. And without this education of how to interact socially and how to portray your emotions and how to express them, you only get the gym training, which is why we see so many boys leaving high school or leaving middle school, getting into high school, and just completely changing who they are. I think a lot of parents can relate to that of like, oh, I had this sweet little boy, and now all of a sudden he's an asshole. And it's because the only advice he's getting on anything related to that is from his peers and coaches. And most coaches are just guys that played that sport in high school and now coach that sport at a high school. And they are not prepared or trained or educated on how to deal with these topics. But you're still going to have some kid come up to you and be like, hey, coach, like I got a crush. Like, should I ask her out? And that's like a really heavy question to try to deal with a 13-year-old's emotions on like, okay, like what do you mean by that? Like what are you trying to do here? Like what is the goal of this relationship? Like all of that should come from an educated like person that is trained to deal with those things, and instead it's put on the gym coach, which is not fair to the gym coach either. And they're just doing their job and going like, well, I don't know, girls like it when you got big arms, right? Time to hit the weights, buddy. And so at 13, you hear that and you translate that to girls will like me if I have big arms. Girls will like me if I'm good at sport. That's the only thing I have to be good at. And then I will get this thing that 2 years ago was not even on my radar. And now is the only thing I can think about. And it's like, it's daunting to think about what, like, the amount of change that needs to happen for that to be realized on a large scale is really overwhelming sometimes. But the other option is nothing.
Right.
So, like, why not, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love that we're getting into the infrastructure side of this. I'm going to pull, you have a video and I have the quote written down here. You wrote, "You don't need a side hustle, you need a union." And so one of the things I've really appreciated is that your work is intersecting with these infrastructural questions. And it's fun learning, that you worked as a bouncer, you've worked in cabinetry, you were a crisis medic. Probably there's other career accolades that you haven't mentioned. But talk to me about how you're thinking about all this stuff intersects with these infrastructural and like work questions, particularly thinking about like what you were getting at when you said you don't need a side hustle, you need a union.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of these issues are all class and wealth inequality issues. And we see this massive like push for hustle culture and grind culture, which is like just ramped up capitalism to the max of like spend every free second you have making money and then you will be free. And if we spent all of that time instead of grinding individually, collectively grinding for better workers' rights, you wouldn't need a side hustle. You would be paid fairly for your labor and then be able to enjoy your time out of work. And I think that's what I was meaning when I said you don't need a side hustle, you need a union. You could spend all of that time that you're drop shipping shirts on Etsy, organizing your workplace, fighting for higher wages and better conditions so that you don't need to go drop ship shirts on Etsy in your free time. And I think it ties into a lot of like I don't like the term manosphere, but the manosphere like grind culture of like make money, make money, make money. That's all individualistic and it's all for me. It's so I can be free. And if we all took all of that energy, all of those bros that are trying to become crypto millionaires took the 5 hours a day that they're looking at shit coins online and spent it talking to people in their workplace and organizing their living places and like collectively in the real world changing their material conditions, there wouldn't be the need for that hustle culture. And a thing I'm trying to do more and more is all of these issues are the same issue. Like every race issue, every gender issue, every sexuality issue, it is all a class issue. And if the sooner we can get more people to realize, like, hey, the reason that you need 4 jobs is the same reason that that guy got shot and killed in the street. Y'all are on the same team. We can all work together for a better future instead of all scrambling trying to fix our own individual lives. It's really like I don't know. I don't know where I was. It's hard. It's hard to not be angry about everything individually and to keep a collective mindset. But I think that's what we need to see any sort of real change from an infrastructure standpoint. And it's happening slowly. I think that's what keeps
Yeah.
me optimistic.
Yeah, it does seem like people are waking up to this, and thanks to output like yours. Like I feel like more than at any moment in my life, I'm seeing more people who don't even identify as leftists who are kind of starting to be like, wait a second. And I'm reminded of, you probably saw this clip, but it's kind of the epitome of what you're describing, where Alex Ramosi was talking about how, slaves back in the day worked 12 hours a day. And if they can do it, I can do it. And it's just like, it's this way of thinking about your life that's so deranged to me. And then when you talk about it all being this one issue, it sounds so simple all of a sudden. Like it doesn't sound easy, but
Yeah.
it at least sounds like, oh, this is like one channel that we like. Any way in which I approach the problem set, if I've got this bigger system in mind, then I'm working toward changing that system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you talk to activists and you talk to people that are doing community work as like full-time jobs, They all go down the rabbit hole of this one narrow problem. And then everyone at the end of it goes, oh shit, it's wealth inequality. It's the billionaires. It's like the housing crisis, the food crisis, the every crisis is can be boiled down either really simply of just going, oh, yep, that's also a problem that this is causing, or by spending 5 years, 8 years in that field trying to fix that one specific problem and then realizing it's all a part of this larger ecosystem of class and wealth inequality.
Mm, mm. Before we leave this part of the conversation, you've mentioned participating in various ways in direct action. Talk to me about like what that part of your identity is and what you see as the value societally to that type of action right now.
Yeah, I think my take is like I have participated through like protests. I've participated through like food banks. I've participated through like housing initiatives, and it just makes you feel really good as like a selfish thing. Like you never leave one of those events going, man, like we're fucked. I always leave and I'm like, okay, there's at least 30 other people in my city that are on the same page that are very passionate about this thing and are willing to come out and do it. And it just like brightens your day, like in such a way that nothing else does. And it makes you feel like a little bit in control in a world where we're lacking a lot of control and agency. It's like, okay, the world is fucked, things are falling apart, but I got to feed 10 people today. Like there's 10 more people down the street from me that don't have to worry about dinner because I did something. And little steps like that make it feel much easier to tackle larger problems. Where it's like, all right, I can't fix everything, but I can fix this one thing. And if I can fix that one thing with 10 people, imagine what I could fix with 100. Imagine what I could fix with 1,000. And it's just working your way into doing that. I think I describe it in a very similar way that I do with fitness. Like, you're not going to walk into the gym and just squat 500 pounds, but you can walk in and squat 50, and then a month later you can squat 100, and then 2 months later you can squat 200, and then in 5 years you can look back and be squatting 500 pounds and go, oh my god, look, I did it. And direct action works the same way. You're not going to show up and just solve the world, but you can show up and make sure that like one person has socks. You can show up and make sure that like one family gets to eat Thanksgiving. And by doing that, it makes the next step easier. It makes doing those bigger projects easier because you know that like I'm doing something good. I already know that I can do it. Why not make it bigger?
Amazing. Well, you brought up the coaching thing, and a question I'd wanted to ask you that this segues very naturally into is how do you see your coaching practice feeding your political identity and the type of videos that you're trying to make?
I see it now like through the people I get to work with. I love all of my clients. Like, and for so long I didn't. I think when I was working at the Gold's Gym, when I was working at like a corporate gym, it was a job and it was draining to show up and work with people that like I didn't really know. They didn't really know me. There's not a personal relationship. There's no bigger reason outside of I want abs or I want a bigger butt. And that kind of coaching was really draining. And now I get to work with a lot of people who have felt marginalized in fitness and been like, oh, this isn't a space for me. This isn't an option for me. I should just go run or I should just go do something else because this is not a welcoming environment. And being able to be the bridge for a lot of those people and welcome them into a space that I love so dearly and let them feel welcome and like fall in love with the process is massive. And it makes me feel like, yeah, again, like change is possible. Like I have the ability to affect people in a way that will last much longer than our relationship. I always tell people my goal is to coach myself out of a job. I want to leave people feeling so competent and capable in the gym that they look at me in a year and they're like, what am I paying you for, dude? Like, I got it. And being able to do that with clients that have traditionally not felt welcomed or accepted in strength training spaces and like introduce it to them has been so rewarding and ties into a lot of my political content because all of those clients are from marginalized communities almost. And I think I have one straight cis client. And to be able to see people flip that switch and go, oh, like this is a thing that I can be good at. And this is a thing that benefits my life. And it's not at all what I thought it was, has been so like fulfilling and rewarding to be like, yeah, look, we can all do this thing and it's good for you. And you're going to be better off because of it. And it came like getting to work with all of these people came through being more outspoken about my political views. And so they both fuel each other in a way.
Amazing. Do you have a long view? And it's totally fine if the answer to this is no. Do you have a long view for how these two threads of your life will go? Like, let's imagine 5 years from now. Like, could you imagine having your own gym where, like, you know, you're more overtly, it's got a more overt political stance? Could you imagine going and working at a different, like, are there ways that you see it going, or are you just kind of seeing where it takes you?
Right now, seeing where it takes me, I would love, I think long term, it would be cool to have like a physical gym that also operates as a third space and community aid hub. But that is way far down the road for me. There's a couple people that I've talked to around the country that are doing similar things. They have big warehouse gyms, and like the back corner of it is like a food bank or a housing shelter when it gets cold. And being able to have a space where people can get really fit and feel welcome and lift weights, do all that stuff, and be a place where I can actually do good for the community that I'm in with my physical gym would be really rewarding. Personally, I'd also love to throw shows out of the back of a gym, just because like I love the DIY scene, and the crossover is really heavy with them as well. There's a lot of really jacked punks, and that would be really cool. But that's way far down the road. Right now, I think it's just focused on getting more people in the gym, getting more people feeling welcome in the gym, so that it kind of spreads on its own, because it's like word of mouth spreads. One person comes back to a party after not being there for 3 months, and everyone goes, "Whoa, when did you get shoulders?" They're like, "Yeah, I started lifting weights." And they're like, "Isn't that what are you, a fascist now?" And they're like, "No, no, no. Like, it's cool. I got this coach. Like, I'm at this gym. Like, we can do all of this stuff together, guys. Like, come on." And you see it. Can see the demographics in the gym changing as more and more people start to jump into strength training.
Amazing. Amazing. Couple quick, like, little almost like lightning round questions where I don't have an exact formulation for the question. I just want to get your take. I know one thing that's really big or like a big topic of conversation in the fitness community right now centers around PEDs, using testosterone, like any type of, it's obviously a spectrum, and some are sort of more potentially physically harmful than others. What's your sense of those, and particularly in thinking about where they fit in with this question of like fascist fitness?
I think PEDs have been a part of fitness forever, since like Gene Sandow, who's like kind of the forefather of Western strength training. Like they were using dehydrated milk powder that was made for cows to try to boost their protein. Like since we started picking up a barbell, guys have been trying to figure out like how can I get bigger as quick as possible. And the PED usage has just ramped up massively because of access to it. You can go buy SARMs and peptides, which are like baby PEDs in a way, which is not to minimize them. They are more dangerous than just straight up injectables most of the time. But you can buy those on the TikTok shop. I can go on TikTok shop right now and buy like BPC. I can go buy all of these weird research chemicals that are going to get me jacked and also destroy my natural hormone levels, like shut down my HPG axis, shut down my natural test production without me knowing. Because it's just some jacked guy going, I bought this and now I'm big. And with PED usage, a lot of people, this is anecdotal, there's not like research on it, but like a lot of people get this sense of self-righteousness. When you start taking high doses or even moderate doses of test, you start to walk around being like, I am better than people, actually. Like, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, I am more dedicated to this, I'm better. And that initial thought makes it really easy to jump to like, I'm better than women. I'm better than immigrants. I'm better than anyone else. And the combination of that train of thought and the literal hormone jump, I mean, it's like being a 14-year-old again. You're taking drugs that change the way you view the world. And those viewpoints generally lean more to the right because you're looking for domination, you're looking for power, you're looking for a status symbol in yourself. And so you're getting that. And then the drugs are helping you get that. And the drugs are also reinforcing this idea that you are better. And it's a real slippery slope. And I'm not anti PED. I'm super pro PED if guys want to do that or if girls want to do that and they know the health ramifications and they have a doctor that they're working with to do it, go for it. Like it's a cool thing to do. It's the same way that I view like tattoos or gauges or body mod. It's like a way to make yourself stand out and feel better about yourself. And also, it's a really easy way to kind of destroy your life without knowing it if you don't have the right information. And the right has made it super accessible to be like, oh, just get on test, bro. That's going to solve all your problems. When that's probably not.
Mm. I so appreciate that link you're making. Cause like I could have guessed that, but like hearing you state it explicitly, it makes total sense. The way that one can make for fertile, like the way that something like testosterone can make for fertile ground for like very, very binary and simplistic ways of thinking, which lend themselves very well to fascist ideologies. I want to say thank you to, Zaina, who says great podcast guest, real encouraging. So shout out to you, Colin.
That's my grandma.
Nice. Final little lightning round question, and then I have a few questions I like to close every episode with.
Cool.
What do we think about Pete Hegseth?
What a fucking dork. I mean, like, like, it's a guy that got bullied and then later in life hopped on test and got a Nazi tattoo and was like, I'm gonna rule the world. He's like a 13-year-old's idea of what you do in the military. I mean, the guy does nothing but walk around doing photo ops and trying to flex on people and isn't even good at it. Like, that's what really gets me is like, he's not good at being fit. It's mind boggling to me that they're trying to prop this dude up as like their, oh, the badass guy. I know that guy. I've seen that guy so many times, like especially through bouncing. That's the guy that comes in, he orders like 2 Red Bull vodkas and then tries to like hit on 3 girls, gets rejected, and then comes over to fight the bouncer and loses every time. Like that phenotype of guy exists everywhere, and they're losers. And it's cannot be understated how like fucking lame it is to be that type of guy. Oh God, it drives me. I don't have a lot of patience on that front.
Amazing. Well, I was hoping you'd say something like that. So, because yeah, I mean, obviously that video of him doing pull-ups makes the rounds, and then also thinking about his whole thing about how everybody in the military and you can't be fat and cut your beards and whatever.
He didn't even serve like that. He's talking to a room full of people that were like for real in war. And he's like, oh, we're going to reshape the military. It's like, dude, you've never did anything. What do you mean? Whatever.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I have three questions I like to ask every guest at the end of every episode. You've inevitably hit on these as we've been talking, so feel free to just call something back in if you want to kind of double down on it or take it a totally different direction. So the first is, what is one thing you wish people paid more attention to?
I think the ties between corporations and politics, looking at lobbying, looking at fundraising records, looking at why people are voting the way they're voting when it doesn't seem to make sense with what they ran on. A lot of those questions can be very simply answered by looking at their donor list. And I think it's public information. We can all go see it. And it's a really easy way to look at why the world is the way it is. It's like, oh, yeah, Nestle gave him $20 million. Like, makes sense why he's anti-water regulation.
Yep. Follow the money. What is one resource that you recommend for making better sense of reality?
Man, nature, like going outside by yourself in a hike, like hanging out by a river for an hour, unplugging your phone and throwing it in a box and walking outside. I think talking to people in the real world makes my life a lot more simple. The more time that I spend trying to make sense of the world through online resources, not to say that there's not a bunch of really good ones and not to say that that's not important, the more angry and nihilistic I feel. And as soon as I go outside and I have a conversation with someone that lives on my street, or I run into someone in a state park while I'm on a hike and we talk, I feel way calmer. I feel way more optimistic about the world.
Mm. Sub question to that: is that why you started doing that video series, or like like you got the kind of ongoing location where you're sitting out in the woods? Does that stem from that desire?
Yeah, I think that's also where I go to think. That's where I go to write. That's where I go to collect myself. And so it felt very comfortable for me to ramble at a camera for 20 minutes, because all of those videos have like another 15, 20 minutes of footage that I edited out of me just talking. And that setting was very comfortable for me because that's where I've been doing all of that thinking and rambling anyway.
Amazing. And finally, what is one moment when your sense of reality was disrupted?
Yeah, DC. I think DC in 2020, seeing guards wearing a Secret Service badge and then pick up and point guns at me while I'm wearing this big cross helmet was a massive snap of my trust in the government and my trust in uh, things getting better peacefully and calmly. That was my kind of like, oh my God, things are bad. Like these are the stormtroopers moment, which I think a lot of people have really never have, I guess is what I was trying to say. A lot of people don't are never going to have that moment where an officer is pointing a gun at them and screaming and beating their friend. That's a lot of people do have that, and I think a lot of people see that all the time, but it's so normal now. It's just an accepted part of policing, and it's an accepted part of the government's job is to brutalize some citizens instead of that being just a non-option, something that should never happen. And we see it a lot through propaganda shows and like murder mystery documents and all of this weird stuff that is just like, okay, they beat up the guy, but they had good reason. Every time I watch NCIS, I can't. I'm the friend that's too woke now. When I watch NCIS, I'm like, oh no, no, they can't beat him up just because they already have the evidence. That's still violating his rights. What are they doing? But yeah, I think that was my shift. My really big shift of reality was seeing that in real time.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine and I always wanted to do like a show where the protagonist is the person whose car gets stolen by the protagonist of some like heist movie that like gets in the car to like go do the thing that's like epic, but then you're like, shit, my car just got stolen.
Yeah, and you got
Um,
to spend 2 weeks not getting a response from the cops and them being like, I don't know, man, good luck.
well, let me ask you one quick follow up on that. Sorry to like go a little further, but what do you think that means for protesting? Because you had that amazing video where you talked about people, closer to the center reacting to the right kind of protest. If this is the new normal from your direct lived experience, like what does that mean for what protest needs to look like?
I think protest without monetary consequence is a thing of the past. I think if we're going to be organizing, we're going to be protesting, it has to be while you're on the clock. It has to be with your dollars. We saw it with No Kings. We've seen two iterations of the No Kings rallies, and it was on a Saturday, and a bunch of police departments came out and were like, "Thanks for coming out and protesting, guys. We really appreciate everyone following the rules." And while it's great, I'm not trying to shit on those protests, and I'm not trying to shit on signs and walking. And what has that gotten us? Up until now, that's been our means of expressing our anger and expressing our discontent with the ruling class. Nothing has changed. If anything, things have gotten worse. We've been using that outlet for a couple of decades now. We got to start to think about what's going to really send a message. And it's really hard and it's really scary to think about sending a message without direct violence. And I'm not calling for direct violence, but I'm calling for general striking. I'm calling for unions. I'm calling for rent strikes. That stuff we can really make people pay attention in a way that matters. And it also is going to take solidarity to the percentage. Like, it is going to take you caring for strangers and caring for neighbors in a way that you haven't had to before, and in a way that you've never been cared for by strangers, most people. And once we get that rolling, I think we can start to make some bigger strides with our protesting. Because what is that traditional routes of protesting garnered us so far? Nothing. And also, we're not going to win like a battle in the street. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like, oh, we need to start arming ourselves for protests and fighting back against the cops, because that's what they're looking for. That's what they're trained for. That's what they're really good at. So if we can do it through continued nonviolence, but with monetary consequence for the people in charge, then we get to really make a change with our money and start to drain some bank accounts, and B, stay in the moral high ground of, oh yeah, I got arrested because I was standing outside my apartment building, not letting the sheriff come in to evict the 5 families upstairs. I'm cool with that. Like, I'm morally fine with that, and I think most people would be. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Hope everybody hears that. And yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Gotta. I mean, follow the money. Hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
All right, Colin, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being on Urgent Futures. Are there any things that you have coming up that you want to kind of call out or tease for people?
I'm starting to do longer form content on YouTube. I haven't put anything out yet, but I've traveled. I've got a couple of cool guests that I'm having on, just other fitness people that are like-minded. It's just training footage with us talking about our feelings on stuff. I'm looking forward to that. I'm pretty sure my YouTube will also be Colin Coaches. But yeah, I don't have anything to really sell or promote other than getting out there and organizing with your friends. I think if you're going to take something away from this, go do that. I don't care if you follow me or not. Go make some friends and organize.
Amazing. Well, definitely everybody should go follow you. Instagram, TikTok, and Substack here. But yeah, we got to organize.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Yeah, I've had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Cool. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.